The White Bull, the story behind the Taurus constellation. Every star has a story. Some are stories of monsters, some are stories of heroes, and some, like this one, are stories of love and of the lengths to which even a god will go to reach it. High in the winter sky, rising not far from the great hunter, there appears the shape of a bull. But look closely, and you will see that only the front of him is there. His mighty head, his broad shoulders, and two great sweeping horns rising up out of the darkness, as though the rest of him was still hidden beneath some unseen surface, and burning in his face a single deep red star, glowing like a watchful eye. This is the story of that bull, and it begins not with a battle, but with a princess standing at the edge of the sea. Let us drift back into the ancient world. In the old land of Phoenicia, on the far eastern shore of the sea, there lived a princess named Europa. She was the daughter of a king named Agenor, and she was famed throughout all the land for her beauty and her gentle grace. And one bright morning, she went out with her companions to play in the flowering meadows near the shore, gathering blossoms in the warm sea air. But she was not alone in being watched, for high upon Mount Olympus, Zeus, the king of all the gods, was looking down upon the world below, and his gaze came to rest upon Europa, moving through the flowers by the sea. And in that moment, he was captivated. He knew at once that he must go to her, but he also knew that to appear before a mortal girl in his true and terrible glory as the king of the gods would do nothing but fill her with fear and send her fleeing. So Zeus chose another way. He would come to her gently, in a form she would have no reason at all to fear. And so the king of the gods took upon himself the shape of a bull. But it was no ordinary bull. Zeus made himself magnificent. His hide was white as fresh fallen snow, gleaming and untouched. His horns were small and perfectly formed, curved like the crescent moon, and shining as though they had been carved from precious jewels. And about him there hung a sweet and gentle fragrance, like flowers upon the wind. He was, in every way, the most beautiful creature that had ever walked upon the earth. In this form, Zeus came quietly down and mingled among the grazing cattle of Europa's father, whose great herds were pastured in the meadows beside the shore. And there, moving gently among the other beasts, he waited for the princess to notice him. It did not take long, for among all the cattle in that field, this one shone. Europa was drawn to the beautiful white bull at once, and when she came near to him, she found him gentle beyond anything she had expected. So calm, so tame, that every trace of her fear melted away. She reached out and stroked his gleaming flank. She gathered flowers from the meadow and wove them into soft garlands and hung them upon his great curved horns. And the bull, in return, knelt down low in the grass beside her as if in invitation. And Europa, delighted and entirely unafraid, did the thing that would change her life forever. She climbed up onto the broad white back of the bull. Her companions laughed and called to her across the meadow, and for one moment everything was gentle and lovely and calm. But only for a moment. For the very instant she was settled upon his back, the bull rose to his feet. He turned, and he began to walk toward the water, slowly at first, and then faster, until he strode straight into the waves and began to swim. Europa cried out, but by then it was far too late to leap free. The shore was already falling away behind her. Her companions could only stand and watch, helpless, as the great white bull carried their princess out across the open sea. And so, frightened and clinging, Europa wrapped one hand tightly around his horn and held on, her long robe streaming out behind her in the wind, as the bull swam on and on across the endless water. And it is said that the sea itself grew calm to carry them, that the waves smoothed and gentled beneath him, and the creatures of the deep rose up to escort them on their way, so that the princess was borne softly across the water toward a distant and unknown shore. On and on he swam, until at last a green island rose from the sea before them, the island of Crete. There the great bull came ashore and set the princess down gently upon dry land. And there, at last, he revealed himself. The bull was gone, and in its place stood Zeus, the king of all the gods, who told Europa who he truly was and why he had carried her so far across the sea. And so Europa became his queen upon that island. In time, she bore to Zeus 3 sons, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Sarpedon, and each of them grew into greatness. Minos became the mighty king of Crete, a name that would echo down through all the ages. Rhadamanthus became a wise and just lawgiver, renowned across the world for his fairness. And Sarpedon too became a great king in a land of his own. So honored were these sons that some say, when their long lives at last came to an end, they were given the solemn task of judging the souls of the dead. And Europa herself was never forgotten, for the whole of the great continent that lay to the west would come in time to be named in her honor, Europe, so that even to this day, an entire part of the world still carries the name of the princess who was carried across the sea. As for the bull, that beautiful white form Zeus had worn to win her, the king of the gods lifted its image up into the heavens and set it there among the stars to shine for all time, a memorial to that gentle shape and to the long journey it made across the water. And so it became the constellation we know as Taurus, the bull. And that is why, to this very night, only the front of the great bull can be seen among the stars. His head, his shoulders, and his two great horns rising up out of the dark, as though he were still swimming even now, forever surging up through unseen waves with the princess upon his back. His fiery red eye still glows, keeping watch over the winter sky. And upon his shoulder there rides a small and shimmering cluster of 7 stars whose own gentle story is still waiting to be told. So when you find him on a clear, cold night, rising beside the great hunter, remember the tale that he carries. Not a story of war, nor of monsters, but of a god who crossed an entire sea in the gentlest form he could take. Remember Europa, the princess who gave her name to half the world. And remember that some of the brightest stories written across the sky are not of battles at all, but of a journey and of love. Rest now and let the stars keep watch, for the heavens are wide and full of hidden stories still. And even upon this great bull's own shoulder, 7 sisters are quietly waiting. But that is a tale for another night.